Here is one final example using a nonagon, which is 9 sides, and this example is when you're given just the radius of the shape. And remember, radius goes from the center of the shape to a corner of the shape, or a vertex. In order to do this problem, notice there's no triangle drawn in. So anytime there's no triangle drawn in, I would go ahead and draw that. So I'm going to draw another radius. And I'm also going to go ahead and use a dotted line to represent the apothem, because remember, we need the apothem in our formula. And remember, the formula is 1/2 apothem times perimeter. Now notice in this picture, we don't have the apothem length or a side length to find the perimeter. So this is where that central angle and the SOHCAHTOA are going to be very helpful to us. Let's start off by just going ahead and finding that central angle. I'm going to go ahead and write that down. So the central angle, we said we take 360 divided by the number of sides, which in this case is 9. That's going to get us 40 degrees. But remember, we only want half of that. So the angle here that we're going to be working with is just 20 degrees. And again, I'm going to draw my triangle off to the side just so it's easier to work with. You don't have to do that if you don't need to. It just depends on how much room you've got. So we've got this 20-degree angle here, and they told us the radius, or in this case, the hypotenuse of the triangle, is 7. Now, we want the apothem, which is this here, and we also need the side length at the bottom here in order to help us find the perimeter. So I'm just going to call that S. So we're going to have to use 2 trig equations in order to solve for this. I'm going to go ahead and start with the apothem first. In order to find the apothem, we're going to use cosine, that's the adjacent and the hypotenuse, and my formula will look like this. Cosine of my angle, so 20 degrees, equals the apothem over the hypotenuse. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 7, and that will get me that my apothem length is 6.6. So I can go ahead and fill that into my original picture, and I can also fill that into my formula here. So we've got 1/2 times the apothem, which is 6.6. Okay? Then we can go ahead and find the side length. So we're looking for this bottom side of our right triangle. And this time I'm going to use sine because that's the opposite over the hypotenuse. So I'm going to write here the sine of 20 degrees is equal to the S over 7. Again, multiply both sides by 7. And that's going to get us that this side length of the triangle is 2.4. Now you have to be very, very careful here. So I just found that this length is 2.4. That is not the entire side of the nonagon. That's just the side of the triangle. So we want to make sure that we double that to get the whole side length here, because that's what's going to help us find the perimeter. So our entire side length is 4.8. And now we can go ahead and find the perimeter by taking 4.8 times the number of sides, which is 9. And now that's going to get us that our perimeter is 43.2. And that's what can get plugged back into our formula, 43.2. And when we calculate that all out, we get that the final total area of this whole regular polygon is going to be 142.6. And if there are no units like this, go ahead and write units squared. But let's say in this case it was yards, so then we would say yards squared. And there's our final answer. Now, you could have also done Pythagorean theorem once you found the apothem, but I always seem to think that SOHCAHTOA is much quicker. There's a lot less work. As long as you are comfortable setting up the formulas, it should be pretty quick to solve for those missing sides. Just be very careful that you're setting up your fractions correctly, and also that when you find your side length of the triangle, that I'm going to mark here in red, that you double it to find the entire length. That's a common mistake that's made. Just be really careful, and then you can find the perimeter from there. Okay? And if you have any questions, let me know. But that's it for today's lesson. Thanks for listening.